Diamondback has been your hometown source for all your shooting and personal protection needs for over 17 years. We stock handguns, shotguns, and rifles from all the major manufacturers, including Glock, SIG, Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Colt, LMT, H&K, CZ, Mossberg, and Springfield. You'll find the biggest and best selection of all holsters in southern Arizona at Diamondback, along with all the accessories needed to maintain your firearms. Don't forget optics and the best ammo prices around. A&R parts are available from Magpul, Troy, Voltar, G&G, Surefire, Ogden Works, and we are a Class 3 dealer, so be sure to ask about silencers. They're legal to own and hunt with in Arizona, and they make shooting even that much more enjoyable. We now have a full-time gunsmith on site, everything from basic gun repair to custom metalwork and Cerakote finishing. Training classes for novice to advanced students in pistol, rifle, and shotgun are now available. Pick up a schedule today for more information.
Can you tell me the name of one of the most distinctive resorts in Tucson that offers a variety of suites and rooms, providing guests with spectacular scenic views of the desert as well as the mountains? Any ideas? Well, here's a hint. Amazing cuisine and beautiful horses. That's right, you guessed it, Tanca Verde Ranch. Come make some cool memories. Visit TancaVerdeRanch.com for questions on accommodations, dude ranch activities, and restaurant hours. TancaVerdeRanch.com.
Proud member of the Tucson Originals.
We were just thinking, what would happen if our hosts all drank an evil potion that made them sound exactly the same? The same stance on the issues, the same partisan rants. Oh, that's right. We'd sound like all the other talk stations. Phew, let's hope that never happens. The power to think for yourself. From hosts that think for themselves, too.
Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, streaming worldwide on PowerTalk1210.com. Stream all of our live local shows. It is an honor to be part that you're part of the program today, and it is an honor to bring in one of my oldest friends on the program, a guy who has been with me through thick and thin. At times, I might take him over the edge with my social media presence, but by and large, he understands what I'm trying to do, and it's great to have him back on the program. Gary Bartz, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake.
Can you
hear me?
I can hear you good. Can you hear me?
Okay.
You know, I wanted to, Gary, I wanted to ask you how proud you are of Barack Obama.
As proud as I am of any brilliant man.
No, I mean, because I don't think I've ever heard anybody ask that question in the media, considering that he basically has been there 8 years, has been elected by millions of people. You know, I think there's a silent. I think one of the interesting things, though, there's going to be a lot of stories written about a silent minority of people who could never admit in their social circles that they voted for him. And it's kind of a shame, because now you have a situation where you have at least part of one party probably will fissure into a conservative party that really wants to basically eliminate him entirely from the record books. So
well, that's going to be impossible.
Yeah, of course, but they're trying, and they've had 8 years. He's done 8 years. He was elected fairly twice. And I know he's got the sharpest people around him, and he's not in the muck and mire every day, which might be one of the things that's it would be dangerous, but it would actually be laudable. But I just wanted you to talk about what are the things that you're most proud of about Barack Obama.
Well, I think his fairness. I think he's a brilliant man. I think he knows and knew what he was up against, and he did the best he could considering with what he had to work with. It's kind of like being Stephen Curry on the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, but I mean but that might mean only 25 wins instead of seven or 9.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Right. That's what I mean.
But I mean, do you really think he knew? Do you really think he really knew what he like? Not only the just the obstruction, but also like the veiled sort of covert cultural bias that he was going to encounter nearly every day, and just to the point where he's not a perfect person, but do you in your mind you really believe that he knew what he was going to face?
I'm not sure if he knew what a dangerous turn it would really take. But what happened is that it revealed the undercurrent and the undercover of this country. And it showed that this country has yet to get over the slavery issue. It has yet to get over the racism that this country's very foundation was built on. It has yet, his 2 terms revealed that there's a big problem in this country. And we have yet to face it. And we've had all of these leaders. We've had brilliant men have been assassinated because they were saying the very thing that happened. And so, whether he knew that would happen, I don't think so. But being of African heritage in his immediate family, I'm sure he knew that there were going to be many problems.
I mean, it's also like I already know, I can see it. I'm not a prophet, but I know that within a year or two, his approval rating, he's going to get more done outside of office as a regular citizen, as a private citizen.
Mm-hmm.
His popularity is going to be 80. I mean, so high. I guess that's what I don't understand. I mean, okay, so like Bobby Kennedy.
Maybe he was looking that far down the line.
I mean, maybe
Jimmy Carter, I think, has done more after his presidency than during.
Yeah, Bill Clinton too. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you think? I always wonder this. If Booker Ervin and Max Roach and Art Blakey were part of his cabinet, what would they have advised Barack to do? Would they have told him to? I mean, what would Max Roach's advice have been to Barack? I know he gets dubbed like professorial, or he talks above the chatter, and he does it so classy too. It's amazing that he and I get that. Again, I understand that he really he gets it and he's in it, and he's not like one of these hate radio mongers or people like that. But what's in your mind? What would Max Roach be advising him to do differently than he did?
I think Max would advise him to hire either Clifford Brown or Booker Little. Art Blakey would say hire Lee Morgan.
Somewhere Woody Shaw would get advocated for. I'm sure.
Woody got to be in there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, like those cats. I mean, to me, it's like why? I know. I mean, they have this International Jazz Day coming up in the middle of this month. And I mean, I dig it. I mean, you look at it, and Aretha's going there, and Buddy Guy, and Herbie, and it's all sort of lumped into like
all of the usual suspects.
Right. The guys that are, you know what it is, Gary? It's like, okay, so you're lumping it into one big global day, but what about momentum and consistency I guess that's the point of my show, is that I've just tried to bring musicians into the dialogue. I don't. To me, it would be avant-garde to do it, but man, I really feel like, I mean, you look at a guy like Van Jones. The guy was run out of town. He's the closest thing to a kind of like has a Rochian concept that I mean, there's just nobody there, and I just would want. To me, it was. It's fascinating to. I agree that it exposed the underbelly of the beast, but it almost seems like the guilt is going to take us right over the edge.
Well, I'm not sure. It's something that growing up, especially where I grew up, none of this is new. And the way it seems to me is that it has gotten worse. I never feared so much the police as I do in this day and age. And I grew up in a segregated town, but we actually knew the police. Right. And they were mostly white. If we saw a black policeman, it was very rare. But they walked the beat. They used to walk the beat, so we knew them. They knew us. It was a whole different, they wouldn't go out and shoot someone that they knew. They knew their moms and dads. Nowadays, they are anonymous. The police are anonymous nowadays. And that, to me, is really, if it's not already, it's very close to a police state.
I agree. And I think the scary thing for me, and I want to get your thoughts on this, you just made a very good point, where, again, with the gun laws in this country, police don't know who is carrying a gun or not. But my point is that after 9/11, if Bin Laden's goal was to turn people against each other, then he's succeeded very well, because to me it's like in Tucson there is a really heavy police presence. I mean more than you would think. I mean, they are present, they are out, and they are looking. They are honestly looking to find people. I mean, part of that speaks to the.
Well, that's their job. That is their job.
But is that always?
Max Roach said something to me one time. We were driving down, I think, to Philadelphia from New York, and it was just me and him. And the police pulled us over. And I used to always have a problem. Oh, man, here we go. And so he says, just be calm, just be careful. They're doing their job. That's their job. Yeah. Their job doesn't begin until somebody does something. They have no job. So therefore, if nobody's doing anything, then they're looking for someone to do something. That's their job. So,
but I mean,
the
Gary,
problem is that
go ahead.
They have no morals nowadays. They are letting people on the police force who shouldn't be on the police force.
But what about the idea that, I mean, it's obviously the highest profile cases, but you look at a guy like Garner. Garner wasn't doing anything, and he got choked to death. So what I'm saying is,
I've seen it all my life.
I know. I feel a little bit at 38 and growing up in Stony Brook, Long Island. I realized that I am pretty naive. But it's all bubbled up to the surface, and I think that and Barack was the antecedent for that. I mean, and yet I don't get it, because he seems like a pretty moderate guy. I mean, he almost comes across. He's certainly not a liberal person, and I don't. How do you also, Gary, as a leader in your own right, how do you deal, or how would you deal with the fact of being vilified, even though you're trying to lead in a positive, loving nature? How do you counteract vilification? Because they basically tried to vilify him as a monster. He's not, though.
Who do you mean?
I'm talking about Barack. I'm talking about Obama,
yeah.
And I'm saying, like,
well, they've done that. You demonize. I watched them demonize Malcolm X. I watched them demonize anyone that goes against. And this has to do with the industry that you're a part of, which is the media.
Mm-hmm.
They play a big part in all of this.
They absolutely do.
All of this negativity. I mean, me and my wife went to the movies last night to see Batman versus Superman, which was a very interesting movie. But some of the previews of the movies that they were showing, it's nothing but pure brainwash, pure, unadulterated.
Oh, yeah.
It's obvious, but as Hitler showed, when you can get to the kids, you get to the kids, you can get to the nation. And that seems what's happening. And most of the previews, I guess it's because it was Batman and Superman, most of the previews were Marvel, comic-based movies. But the media has a lot to do with it, and film has a lot to do with it, because we said, whereas the news, okay, that's one thing in this country, but the movies send these messages throughout the world, and so they're much more powerful, even as a global entity than our media right in this country necessarily.
Talking to Gary Bartz here on the Jake Feinberg Show. Gary, do you feel? Can you talk about the health? I know you just came back from a big tour overseas,
Mm-hmm.
but can you talk about the touring circuit in the United States for music for you personally? I mean, and the health of the live touring circuit in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not like it used to be. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And one problem I think that no one wants to or seem to address is that we have no reputable agents, managers, and people in the business end of it. We just have greedy people who they don't really care about the industry. They just care about making money. They'll jump on whatever. They don't try to nurture a product, which is the musician themselves. And that's a major problem, because you have to deal with these sleazy people. And I heard a funny story that a friend of mine in Italy told me. He was trying to book Yusef Lateef and his band in Europe, and so he said, Brother Yusef, how much would it cost to bring your band over? So Yusef said, about $50,000. And so the promoter said, okay, well, let me get back to you. So he called him about a week later. He said, well, Brother Yusef, how does this sound? Maybe we could bring you over as a single and get a really great rhythm section from over here. How much would that cost? Yusef said $70,000.
Yeah, but I mean, fundamentally, instead of dwelling on the scumbags, who in your mind was a cat, a promoter, somebody who appreciated the music and was essential to and nurtured the music? Who was someone like that for you?
Well, we had a lot. I mean, I think Jack Whittemore, who came out of the Shaw Agency. I love Jack. Jack really cared about the music. You'd see him out hanging out with the musicians. He was a part of the family. Now, if you see the promoter, the only time you see an agent or promoter is when they come to pick up their money.
Right.
They do not come to hang out. You don't see them listening to the music. They probably have never heard your records. But these are the people we have to deal with. They don't even know how to even present the artists that they have, to the different people. And so, because it's much easier to sit in an office and wait for someone to call you and say, can you get me this person, rather than for them to go to work and say, you need to book this person. That's the difference between the people who care and the people who just trying to make money. And that's what this whole capitalist system is based on. But it's just not working for the musicians. That's for sure.
Can you give an example of that? Like like your personal experience of someone that didn't even know how to promote? Well, maybe not you per se, but something in recent memory where you can give an example of what you're talking about?
There's just so many examples, but
yeah.
I mean, it's not hard to. there are organizations, there are theaters, there are places all around the world who would love to have certain artists. They don't know how to get to them because they don't have the proper people handling them. And consequently, they either do it themselves or they fall back and use some of the people who claim they can get them work. I don't want to give examples because I don't want to, people may know who I'm talking
That's
about.
fine. No, that's fine. I mean, it's just to me, it lends credence to what you're saying because I know what you're talking about. It's like this. These handlers have appeared, and they've been detrimental to the conduit between. I guess it goes back to the live touring circuit too, where I mean, if you were with McCoy, you might show up at the Keystone Corner, Todd Barkin's place, for 2 weeks at a time. You'd get to know the audience. Hopefully you get paid on time. But there weren't. Right. It wasn't like some dude in a armored truck showing up, collecting the bag of money and leaving. It was the anonymity is quite shocking.
Yeah.
But yet why don't you talk about the positivity of your tour overseas, the kinds of places you went and the kinds of feedback you got, and I mean, we just talked about the dumbing down of younger people with movies, but I mean, it seemed to me you got quite a reception based on your comments on Facebook.
Well, I mean, because the people need this. It's a living art form. Yeah, they can actually go listen and watch an art form growing right in front of their eyes. So it's very exciting to many people. But I think they're in the minority because you don't have the promotion that you used to have with the record labels. And so you either have to make you have to lose something. Being a band leader usually doesn't mean you're making money. I came from the era where I know a lot of gigs that we did with Miles. I didn't know this at the time. He didn't get paid. He took those gigs to work the band.
Wow.
Because that was important. A band is important to me. It was important. And I think without bands, music just is very stagnant nowadays because young musicians have nowhere to learn how to do this. I learned from all the bands I was in. I learned so each one was a university. And they all didn't make a whole bunch of money, but they felt the need to keep a band together. It was very important because just think, if Monk had not had a band, we would have probably not heard most of the music that he wrote because there was no way you're just going to get up and play that kind of music.
Right.
You have to have a band that works together for a year at least. In my estimation, it takes about 2 years for a band to really have their own identity and present music that has never been heard before, or at least present it in a way that it's never been heard before. And that's a very important thing. So you had these record labels which would at least promote the musicians. Nowadays you have nothing. You have the internet, but that's nowhere near the same thing.
Do you did Miles pay you guys and just didn't take any money?
Oh no, he would pay. He would take the gigs and pay the band. He wouldn't take anything. I mean, that was some gigs. That's when we did nightclubs because he was doing the nightclubs so that the band could tighten up.
Right.
And it was that important to him that I said, okay, I'll make money another way.
Well, and that speaks to the fact that there were so many places to play in Woodshed on the bandstand, and it's just really hard to I was talking to Jabali Billy Hart, and he just said that Charlie Parker got his stamp in the on the Walk of Fame in the Apollo Theater, and they're doing like a 2-night opera An opera.
Oh, yeah.
An
Yeah, we're
opera,
supposed to
because
see that,
that's where
yeah.
that's the only way they could generate the money. I mean, it's like, this is a joke. I didn't, and I don't understand why more business people don't get that. I mean, to me, it's like, but I do. Your band that you're with right now, how long have you guys been together?
Well, some of the guys have been with me at least 15 years. And it's beginning to go through a change because things change, but it's just important to me to have a band because nowadays there are no bands. What people are going and paying good money to go see, and that's their choice, and I'm not knocking either end of it. But what you're going to see is either a rehearsal or a jam session.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see a band. If they're reading music on the stage, it's a rehearsal. Okay? And I'm ready to leave. If I go in and see music up on the stage, I'm ready to go because I'll come to the rehearsal, but I want to see the finished product. I don't want to go to the movies to see actors reading from the script. I don't want to go to the theater and watch the actors reading from the script. If it's not that important to learn it, then I'm not interested. If you're not interested, that's the way I came up. Max Roach would not allow music on stage. Have you ever seen John Coltrane on stage with music?
Never.
Miles Davis? I could go on and on. Art Blakey. You learn it. This is what we do. It's not that important. You want to go to see a mechanic working on your car and he's reading from the manual? I mean, sometimes you might have to go to the manual, but that's not in front of the person who brought the car in.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. But
so you're either seeing a rehearsal with music, or when they put a group together who had never maybe worked together as a unit, it's a jam session. You can't work. There's no original music. There's nothing. There's no sound that the band has developed. You're watching today. What we have is either jam sessions or rehearsals, and then in very rare instances you might see a band.
Do you can you talk about a silver lining, if there is one? I guess what I'm getting at is you guys had the technical chops, but you weren't up there with charts. You were improvising off a theme, and you were
composing. We weren't improvising. We were composing.
Thank you for correcting me. You were composing off a theme. Last time I talked to you, you said the younger cats at where you in Ohio, you said their ears were
at
Oberlin, their ears were locked. Have they become less locked? Did you see any sort of incremental? Where do you see growth? Give me a little bit of you're really on the front line, so just please give. I'm just sort of in my hermetic bubble, but please give me some silver lining.
Well, I think musicians today are as good as any other decade. I don't think they're any worse than any other generation. You've got your greats, you've got your, really good musicians. They are all good. But like I say, they're at a disadvantage. For number one, they have no bands to really nurture this talent in. And number two, they started learning backwards. And so now they have to go back and open their ears.
Can you go farther on the backwards part?
Well, they learned by reading. They learned music first. Before they could pick out a song by ear, they were already reading it. Mozart didn't start like that. Beethoven didn't start like that. I didn't start like that. Louis Armstrong didn't start like that. Musicians start by ear. Music is an ear science. It's an art form dealing with ears. So if the very musicians who's doing this art form can't hear, he has to put music in front of him, then he's at a disadvantage because he'll be facing an audience that may not be able to read music, but they can hear. They know when there's a wrong note, when there's not a wrong note. They know when the tempo is dragging or when it's rushing. They know these things.
Well, wait, I'm going to counter, though, and say that because digital music has been crammed into the ears of younger generations, I'm not sure if people know what they're hearing anymore.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that.
I'm just saying. I mean, you know that there was a critical audience because auditory learning and auditory process was very much at the forefront. With but now when you have the combination of digital music, drum tracks, electronic music, and really not a lot of real intense melodic composition, I'm not sure if people are going to know if they're missing it or not. That's all.
Well, it depends. I know. What I have seen is when you put a mediocre musician who has gotten a lot of rave reviews and it might be the darling of the day, when you put that mediocre musician against artist who is really light years above this mediocre musician, the audience knows. Mm-hmm. But when you see them sing as single-handed, they can't determine. But when you can hear, it's kind of like when you see the best against not the best. If you see Sugar Ray Robinson fighting a journeyman, you can see that. But when you see the journeyman fighting another journeyman, you say, well, he looks pretty good.
Gary, I'd like to do another. We're just getting started, but I got to go to a break, and I want to. Are you gonna? What's your summer tour schedule looking like?
We're doing a lot of things around the country for a change.
Great. You coming to? I wish you would come to Arizona.
I wish we would too. Yeah. I love Arizona.
I know.
We're going to be at Howard University on the 10th, I think that is, next Sunday, and then we're going to be in Pittsburgh at a theater there on the 12th, and that's the quartet. And then I go down to North Carolina with a group, Sax Appeal, with Jimmy Heath and Javon Jackson. Then the quartet goes to Australia. We're going to be in Australia for about a week in June.
And unlike Miles, you're going to get paid for these things?
Some of them.
Okay. Oh, some of them. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I will. I need to keep a band working.
Mm-hmm. I applaud that. Is McCoy doing that?
Well, we've been working. I've actually been working with McCoy lately. He's been doing like a residency at the Blue Note in New York. Monday nights, and the last one we did was a Tuesday. But he's beginning to work again. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, listen, I'm glad you're maybe in May or before. When are you leaving for Australia?
The end of May.
All right. So before
and
that,
actually, I'm going to be at the New Orleans Jazz Heritage Festival with Heads of State with Larry Willis and Al Foster.
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, that's badass. Okay, so let's after you get back from Jazz Fest, let's piggyback on this and do part 4. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, bud.
Sounds good, Jake. Thank you.
Good to hear you, brother.
Good to hear you. Good
Cheers,
to speak
man.
with you.
Keep swinging.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. We'll be right back
Bye-bye.
on the Jake Feinberg Show.